Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour, brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by Ed Carbajal. Ed, we probably should have cracked some beers because it just dawned on me as I did the intro that I believe this is our 4-year anniversary show. But
Oh,
anyways.
yeah. It's
But
March. That's
anyway.
right.
It literally just clicked in me as I was going through that. But anyways, happy anniversary then, and let's
Yeah,
get
let's
into this, man.
keep on trucking. Yeah.
Before we jump into the action this weekend, which is the main focus of the show, I feel obligated to acknowledge the worst pick in show history by picking Austin Vanderfort to upset Gegard Mousasi. So I won't run from that one,
No,
but
but
I would
listen.
like your take on it for sure.
No, listen. I've been saying it all week, and we got it. We definitely have to give Austin Vanderford his due. If your first loss in your entire career is to Gegard Mousasi, you're probably still a pretty fucking tough dude. So chin up, Mr. Vanderford or Mr. Van Zandt or whatever you like to call yourself these days. It's definitely not a loss that you'll, as they say in martial arts, losses are lessons, and this is definitely one you'll learn from. But I mean, how about Gegard Mousasi?
He's
Does
just
yeah, he's
I mean, he very well. I mean, you got Anderson Silva. You throw out Anderson Silva, and he's arguably the greatest middleweight of all time.
yeah. Yeah,
You know,
I mean, right away. I mean, the folks that watched it, it was an early card just for folks that didn't watch it. For years everybody complained that Bellator didn't do live overseas events, and now that they do them, people are like, are like, oh, wait a minute, that happened.
yeah,
But
they wanted it live. It wasn't that they were doing overseas events. They complained that they couldn't watch it live, and they had to watch tape
the
delay
tape
when they get
delay,
home. And now that it's on live,
yeah,
those same complainers act like they have no clue what's going on. So
yeah. But no, like but the ones that did watch, as soon as it was over, everyone's like, oh man, what Israel Adesanya versus Musasi. I mean, that's like the super fight. I started getting vibes. If you remember back in the day when Pride was still around, everyone wanted to see Chuck Liddell versus Wanderlei Silva. That's the kind of vibes I'm getting, and I hope the same history repeats itself. At least before, I mean, Musasi's what 35, 36, so he's still got some time in the sport. So I hope it happens before he hangs up his gloves because he's actually being really smart with his money.
yeah, no, and I mean, how can you dislike the guy too? I mean, he's become everything that's good about the sport. So the guy's just he's
Yeah.
incredible, and his resume. Um, we talk about guys hiding in weight classes, in a sense, and you talk about a guy who hasn't. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this dude's fought Mark Hunt. He fought Gary Goodridge. He fought.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this guy fought people that you wouldn't want to be in the same room with because you would, you'd start fearing for your life just
Mm-hmm.
by sheer size. And I mean, he's not some gigantic man either. I mean, he's got that ectomorph body that you've you talked about in the past, but
Mm-hmm.
he's not some intimidating guy. He never has been. He always looks like I mean, I hate to use a wrestling term, but
Mm.
AEW is kind of the Orange Cassidy of MMA in a sense. He's kind of that, you know what I mean? And most people probably have no idea what that means, but he
Yeah.
kind of has the same kind of
I'm trying to get Eddie Kingston on this podcast, so they better start learning.
so he kind of has the same vibe. But I mean, just the resume, the sheer amount of wins, the losses he has are
Mm.
you know Jacare and Machida. I mean, his losses are to a who's who, so it's not like he's and he just seems to be getting better. That's the
Yeah.
thing that I think you
Yeah.
know we talk about UFC quote unquote washouts and all that BS that comes out of there, but this is the case where this is the one of the a lot of times UFC cuts the right guys
Mm-hmm.
at the right time. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just honest. Even if we don't like it, this is one
Mm-hmm.
that they dropped the ball on.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, this is one they dropped
Absolutely.
the ball on,
Yeah.
and I'm sure this is one that they're sitting behind, kicking themselves, going, "Why did we let this guy go?"
Yeah.
Especially now when you're kind of looking at who's going to fight Adesanya next, and
Yeah,
where
and where his fights are haven't been. I mean, like that comment Michael Chandler made after Adesanya's last title defense. Like You're the champ, and you just got the most money that ever made in the UFC and probably in the sport, and you're fighting, playing it safe like that. Which, okay, yeah, I get it. You're being smart with your health or whatever, but you know, I mean, again, Vanderfort's not wasn't isn't a walk in the park for anybody. The younger guy by a few years, like 4 or 5 years, but and Mousasi put him away convincingly in the first round. There's no argument. There's no doubt of fights getting robbed or judges. He finished him, which is what I mean. I've I'm a fan of finishers, and the fact that he's a champ and he's finishing dudes, especially a dude like, again, Austin Vanderford, who's fought, grinded his way all the way up to beat everybody in front of him to get to the shot. I mean, that's the thing too about the loss. People are knocking Vanderford for, or maybe have a comment about the matchup. But he was 11-0 until he saw Gegard Mousasi. So
he was the number one contender in
yeah,
Bellator. He deserved the fight. He earned the fight. The people that hate him and hate his wife are just haters. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I don't understand. I've never understood the hate
yeah.
for Paige. I've spoken on that in the
If
past.
anything, you should aspire to be like Austin Vanderford, have a
Uh,
hot wife that can kick ass, and you can kick some ass yourself and be in good
yeah,
shape. And
I mean,
come on,
I just don't. I don't see anything wrong with them. They don't seem like
no.
they're the problem at all with this sport that we.
And they're both super nice people
And
from
that's
my
what I
my
mean. That's what I mean.
exchanges with them. Yeah, super nice
I've
people.
never met Austin. I met Paige at a few UFC things, and she was always super friendly.
Hmm.
She's obviously representing the UFC at the time, but
Hmm.
you know, those we've met plenty of these athletes that don't give anybody the time of day, and clearly don't
Hmm.
want to be where they're at. And I've never got that from her. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, I guess kind of the other news to come out was the co-main event. Sinead Kavanagh beat Leah McCourt.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe you can help me out because I know you're bigger on the post-fight press conference world than I am. Uh,
Hmm.
was it immediately announced that Kavanaugh, in theory, will be fighting a rematch against Cyborg? That seemed to be the news that came out real quick, and then I heard everybody talking about this knee injury that came out. Now she has a torn ACL.
Yeah,
Uh,
she put it on her Instagram actually today that her ACL was torn and she fought through it. So I mean, if you weren't, I tweeted it out when I saw her post and I shared it, because if you weren't a fan of hers and you don't understand her ranking in the Bellator women's, amongst the Bellator women's featherweights, then that's why she's where she is. However, like you said, I mean, people are having varied reactions because they announced it literally as McGregor and the SPG guys were carrying her away from the cage that she was next in line to fight Cyborg again. I mean, we kind of already saw how that fight played out the first time. So, I mean, my kavit from this whole thing, and they asked Coker at the post fight press conference, you know, why not Kayla Harrison? She's a free agent. What's going on there? And from what we're hearing up until today, I mean, I know Ariel Helwani likes to act like he's got the ultimate scoop on everything. Um, but it seems like there's a matching clause in her PFL contract, in which case, as long as they keep matching the numbers, then she's never going to get let go. It looks like she wants to fight. Harrison wants to fight Cyborg, but contractually, she's just not able to. So
yeah, I noticed that yesterday, and it's funny that
yeah,
it took this long for that to come out. Basically, that
hmm,
she's not really a free agent. I mean, she doesn't have
yeah.
she can't, which is weird because I wouldn't think she would want to put herself in a position. Maybe it doesn't go on forever. Maybe it was like the first contract expiration. There's a but it just seems odd. And she didn't seem happy about hearing the news that her
No,
contract was matched.
especially if you've seen enough interviews and you've interacted. I covered her whole 2019 run, especially when in that season in the PFL. She's not somebody to shy away from a challenge, and if Cyborg makes it like Cyborg kind of tagged her like didn't say anything, but kind of just said like hinted at her avoiding a fight with her. Harrison immediately responded with like, "This is where I'm at. You can come see, find out if I'm scared or not." But that's just like you said. I mean, one person says, and I wrote about this over at mymmanews.com, one of my favorite sites that I write for, by the way, where they said uh, Don Davis, the co-founder and chairman of the PFL, said the ball's in Kayla Harrison's court. We've made her a fantastic offer. So if the ball's in her court, um, you know, and it's just a matched offers, don't you make the same money no matter where you go? So maybe it's not as I feel like she's in a place where if it were up to her, she'd already have a fight signed.
It seems that way, and I have
Mm-hmm.
no reason to believe that that wouldn't be the case. I just find it odd. Okay, from a prize fighting standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
staying in PFL for a match of the highest contract offer is the move.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up. If you're just trying to make millions of dollars
Yeah.
and go undefeated and beat everybody and then retire and go, hey, I walked away rich as
Mm-hmm.
hell. I don't really care about who I fought. I just beat the hell out
Yeah.
of who was in front of me. Then that's the move.
Yeah.
The I think the biggest thing to come out this is what did the UFC offer her? Because they were obviously third. They didn't
Yeah.
offer more than Bellator.
Yeah.
So
Hey, maybe Adesanya, hurt them that they're like, okay, we're gonna have to let this one go.
yeah,
But, but
we gave you 900K. That means we can't
yeah,
sign anybody else.
yeah.
But
I mean, they have their feeder, the contender series, and
they have that.
ultimate,
But I just it
But that's what I'm saying. They have to have money for that. They can't just have that and not have the money to sign guys for. You know what I mean?
uh-huh. It just
So.
seems odd. I think that was kind of something, and I think Caposo might have pointed that out. But I think that was kind of the thing that never really was talked about. Is
Hmm.
like, well, where's the UFC's offer? What I mean,
Yeah.
did the UFC offer her 30 and 30? I mean, are we?
Yeah.
That I would love to know what kind of offers were
Yeah,
made
and
here.
this is the same chatter that came up when what's his name, Lance Palmer, after he won his second PFL season in a row. Like a lot of people were like, "Listen, not for nothing. Now the UFC can't afford Lance Palmer. He's made $2 million already at the PFL. You know what I mean? The same thing. Kayla Harrison's also made $2 million, so she's not cheap. But I mean, if you've got suitors interested, and those were the two, like you said. That's a good question. How much did they really offer her that it's not even in the conversation anymore?
Because Bellator could, I don't, and it's always weird how that works too, because Bellator and PFL really can offer like openness to have sponsorship,
Hmm.
whereas the UFC's sponsorship for Kayla Harrison would be capped at what, like $3,000 a fight.
Yeah, it's based on her experience. So yeah,
She has
yeah.
no experience in any of the organizations they count experience in, and she doesn't get the
Mhm.
championship uh,
Yeah.
clause or pay. So
The
really,
other
like,
thing though, the other thing too is and I wrote this in the piece about what Don Davis and the PFL offer. Um, the other thing too, we have to remember she's also, she's got two kids now that she takes care of. She's a mom now.
mhm.
So if the PFL's where the money is at, and you could keep tons of money fighting, fighters that are probably you're going to be probably better than in a weight class you're very comfortable in. I mean, we shouldn't falter either. Like, I mean,
No, that's what I'm saying.
she's a
It's
human
prize
being.
fighting.
Yeah.
As it's not her fault necessarily that PFL is just going to give her a bunch of plus 800 opponents.
Hmm.
Um, and I think Cyborg's contract. I think she has one or two fights left. So, I mean, in theory, there could be eventually that fight could be made.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I guess probably a cross promotion at this point's out the door, especially matching
Yeah.
that contract. There's probably not going to be any kind of anything like that going on.
Yeah.
I guess the next question is how many fights did she sign for? Did she sign a like 8-fight Bellator
Yeah.
contract knowing that she could be matched? Because if she did that, the smart move would have been to sign like a 1-fight contract with Bellator
Or three
and go,
fights or something.
or
Yeah.
yeah, like 1 or 2, 3 fights, and go, okay, you want to match it, but after
Yeah,
those 3
because that's the other
fights.
thing too. We've already seen her be displeased with the season format especially when COVID hit and she couldn't fight. We've seen her go to Invicta, and they've let her go to Invicta and get a one-off fight. They're going to let her do Titan FC
Mhm.
if her opponent didn't fall out. So maybe we can still see that because they're doing this Challenger Series thing on Fubo Sports, looking for new names and stuff like that. So the season still hasn't started. They still have. I think they said they were going to start soon in April. I think they said they're going to start the season in April. Um, so she still has to wait for the season to start, and then for her bracket to get announced and all that stuff. And if you saw her interview with Danny Segura over at MMA Junkie, she's losing patience with this whole situation. So,
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting situation.
mm,
Um, gonna have to just see where that unfolds. But it's just the whole situation seems weird. Seems like it's been drawn on to with that. You would have thought this would have been settled maybe a little sooner with the uh, you know when there's a match clause, if you're Bellator or UFC, you're not necessarily going to spend hours and hours and hours and days trying to work something out if you know that the other people are going to match it. I mean, I would have thought PFL might have given her a heads up and gone, hey, unless they offer you, you know, 30 million a fight, you're pretty much not going anywhere. So let's
Yeah.
avoid the chatter. There's no reason to, you know, it's business. And I don't blame PFL for 1 second for matching the offer either.
And
They know.
I feel bad for her too because if PFL's a place, if PFL's a place, but now because of the types of questions she gets when she's there and on the fight weeks that they have, she's gonna have to deal with this conversation for all of 2022 season. No one's gonna ask her about the opponents in front of her or how she's doing, or everyone's gonna ask her cyborg, why didn't you? Everyone's going to talk to everything except about the fight at hand, and that's one of the most annoying things I hate about when she gets interviewed. Not her, nothing against her. It's just I when I raised my hand in those Zooms last season, I didn't get picked to ask my question, which would have been about the fight in front of her, not Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg, because now here's a chance for her to fight Chris Cyborg, and it's not happening. So.
Yeah, but and to defend Cyborg, if the roles were reversed, Kyla Harrison would have been saying the same or tweeting the same tweet to Cyborg. So
yeah, you
I mean,
gotta. That's the game.
It's a healthy rivalry, and hopefully, you mentioned Chuck and Vanderlei. Hopefully this is another one that we get to see. Because
that's
but again, I'm not. We're gonna move into UFC. I'm not gonna bash him. I just think it's weird that talk about making the fights fans want to see. You've arguably got one of the top 4 female MMA fighters of all time as a free agent. Maybe not top 4. That might be maybe in the future, but right now, top 10, I would say is probably, at least skill wise for sure.
Yeah.
So weird that they would let that go, knowing that their 145-pound division is on life support. And Nunes just doesn't have much competition up there at that weight class. Not only much competition, they don't have much fighters signed. So kind of weird. But anyways, we'll move on from that. And look forward
to the pay-per-view with no title on the line.
No title on the line. Revamped co-main event.
Yeah.
But a lot of good fights. It's an action card to me. I think almost every fight has potential for a fun night. I don't necessarily, when I just glance at the card, I don't see a ton of decisions. They'll probably all be decisions now that I've said that, but I think it's pretty good. I mean, obviously we're not going to do picks for the whole card, but when you start at the bottom for the prelims, just some names. You got Dustin Jacoby,
bring it up.
Early prelim.
Yeah.
Not glory kickboxer, not known for boring fights.
Yeah,
you got 2 fights up. You got Tim Elliott, who probably has never been in a boring fight in his
ever.
And that's just a couple of the names. And then you got Brian Kelleher, who's again Umar Nurmagomedov. I mean, that Nurmagomedov's a huge favorite there. That one, nobody thinks that one's going to decision. So I think the early prelims right off the bat are fire. Nurmagomedov's interesting. You got the name, and you're 13-0.
Yeah,
it's weird.
And like you said, Tim Elliott, so it's just fun. Win or lose, he's going
to put on a show. The regular prelims, I think you want to click past that. The regular prelims, just some more names.
This fight right here, Rodriguez and Xeon.
That one, easily a main card. Jalen Turner always puts on an exciting fight. And then, okay, it looks like they'll move to the main card. But yeah, I mean, I think there's just a lot of action fights. Just kind of glancing at the odds as you scroll through them. Looks like we got some fairly even. So like I said, I just think there's going to be a lot of action. We don't have any Hall of Famers necessarily on the prelims, but definitely some action. Main card kicks off with probably, I guess if there is a head scratcher at this point, it would be wise. I mean, it's not why. We know
the Prince of War.
The Prince of War, Greg Hardy, 4-4 in the UFC, 7-4 overall. At least I'm going to go by the UFC's records as we're witnessing it on the screen here. But yeah, I think he loses. I think Spivak finishes him. I think you know, I think Hardy had his little run, kind of peaked out where he is. I think he's just a big, heavy, strong puncher.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, doesn't necessarily react well to getting hit hard himself. Uh, tends to bend the rules when the when the world's not in his favor. I think he probably loses this fight. And honestly, if I just don't really understand. I mean, I don't mind a heavyweight fight on the main card. I love heavyweight MMA, unlike a lot of people on this planet. But
Mm-hmm.
I just and this is not a terrible one. I think this is going to be. I think that someone's getting knocked out. I'm going to go with Spivak to beat him up, but wouldn't shock me.
Actually, yeah, no, I'm with you as far as the picking goes, but I'm picking Spivak to also win. I wouldn't be surprised if because when I looked at his record, let me check my notes here. I mean,
He submits him.
I wouldn't be surprised. He's pretty well rounded. He's got wins all over, and he's a former champion. He was a World Warriors Fighting Championship heavyweight champ and defended that title twice. So, he's rightfully the favorite there.
Yeah, he's got some head and arms,
Yeah.
chargs, triangle choke. So I mean, a rear naked choke on his record. So yeah, I think he'll probably take him down or hurt him and get on top of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I don't think we see Hardy pull
Also,
a big nog and
it's
survive
it should be noted. I mean, isn't Hardy currently walking around? I mean, as of earlier today, isn't he like 290 something pounds?
The
And
rumor was he showed up in Vegas at 310 basically, and now he's at
yeah,
like 295. So,
which I thought you're supposed to be within a certain range of the weight you have to cut. But
it's a percentage. So I don't know when you start getting into the big boys that percentage, becomes a good chunk of weight.
yeah, yeah.
I will say this, man. If Greg Hardy's going to fight, and we're going to try to figure out who the baddest dude on the planet is among heavyweights, why are we cutting weight? Let the dude fight at 300 pounds.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, yeah.
we're not talking the days of, I don't even know who to mention in the UFC. There's some of the big dudes that fought in the past, that were just, slobs. Same with Brock Lesnar. Like, if I want to see 315-pound Brock Lesnar fight,
Yeah.
that's the spectacle I want to see, because that's basically all we're getting here with Greg Hardy. Why are we asking him to cut weight? Go in there and go in at 300 pounds and either get knocked out or knock somebody out. That's what the fans are paying for. But card opener, don't expect a decision. So I think that bodes well for
Yeah,
keeping every
especially
keep
for us East Coasters.
Yep, because you want to get through those first couple, so
Yeah,
that and then I mean, what do you say about this fight?
I
I
actually
mean,
like it. I think it's a good matchup, but I don't disagree with the odds here, just because Oliveira's been a little off his last few fights, and I know they're both coming off of losses, but
yeah, they've obviously both had some severe ups and some severe
yeah.
downs in their career. But I mean, just as what were the odds by chance? I missed the
Oh, I'll bring
number
them
on
back
that
up.
one.
Oh, oopsie daisy, sorry about that. We check the
I mean, I
odds
would
here.
guess Holland's what,
He's the
220?
favorite. He's 320 minus 320.
320. A little
Yeah.
higher, a little more than I would have expected. 220 would have probably been more the range that I would have thought
And
for that one.
just for the audio folks, this is the odds on the UFC.com website, courtesy of DraftKings, who should sponsor
Um,
this podcast. But anyway, but yeah, I'll,
I mean,
yeah,
I pick Holland to win.
yeah, me too.
I I suppose this fight could go to a decision because it is a 3-round fight against two durable dudes. Uh,
Hmm.
but I also could see Holland submitting him. Um, or yeah, I mean, I think that Oliveira just comes out guns a blazing, and
Yeah, and he seems
it's either live or die with him in
yeah,
every one of his fights.
and he seems more likely to fall into the with the talking Holland does. I feel like that'll mess with him during the fight or on fight week or whatever, and that'll also play into the outcome and like kind of distract him kind of the way it did Jacare. Jacare was trying to be playful or whatever, but he still let it distract him, and he got knocked out while in Holland's closed guard. So it's it's definitely something that I can see happening. So yeah, so far so good. We're both in agreement with our picks. I mean, I have a feeling we're going to be the same on this one.
Yeah, I mean, just back on that F one. If I had to place a bet on which one's going to be the fight of the night, I would pick Holland Oliveira.
Oh yeah.
I think that has barn burner written all over it.
This one's got I don't know if I agree with the odds on this one though.
So,
Edson Barbosa versus Bryce Mitchell.
yeah, Barboza, who's been doing well at 145 pounds. He's coming off of a loss to Chikazi, but for the most part, been fairly successful. Bryce Mitchell is 14-1, and actually, Tapology has him at 14-0, but he has a loss on. Huh. I'm be interested to get that cleared up. Tapology doesn't have him with a loss, so I'm not sure where we're at, to be honest. I got to confirm that one. But I see Bryce Mitchell winning. I actually saw a tweet that I wanted to point out to you, since you like to throw a couple bucks here and there. Bryce Mitchell was
Been
plus
losing a lot lately.
Mitchell was plus 9,000 to win by Twister.
Oh yeah, and he actually called for he's predicting a Twister himself.
So, and I know he's attempted several, and he's successfully got one a couple
I'm
years
looking at
back.
his Wikipedia. He's got no losses on his record here either. So maybe
So
that's
the UFC
correct.
is just killing their,
Yeah.
their prospects
Yeah.
by not even giving him the respect.
Hey, that's like a wrong running gag on this podcast, because for the visual part, we use their website because it looks nice on screen here, but UFC.com, you got to get your folks
No, I
to.
was gonna say I thought he was undefeated. I'm trying to go what the
Yeah,
heck?
you are correct according to one of the other searches, but yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I see him winning. I actually think he could win this fight by decision. Because Ferguson beat Barboza with like a Darce choke years ago. So, and I think Mitchell.
That's a good.
I'm just gonna go with. I think Mitchell's just. I think he's undefeated. I think he's undefeated, I should say. And I see him winning this fight. If they have the odds of a Twister in Vegas, I'm definitely going to put $10 on plus 9,000.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
this is the first one we disagree on, just because I'm a little stupid in 2022 with my picks, so don't at me, even though this is what my official pick is that I'm submitting to SureDog, and the only place that I do it, which is them now, and my newsletter. But I'm going with Barboza only because I remember Justin Gaethje, when he fought Barboza, he said that was the only fighter that made him nervous, that when he fought. And then we're talking about Justin Gaethje, who's like the real god of war in MMA, in my opinion. And he actually said that's a fighter he tried to emulate in his career. And so when you get praise from a maniac like that, I don't like to pick against Barboza. And like we both said, he's been doing well since he left 155 and got away from Justin Gaethje. He's been doing what we know Barboza does. I wouldn't be surprised if he surprises us all. So Barboza as the underdog, I like to bet. I bet the dogs. I'm probably going to put money on Barboza this weekend.
good fight.
Oh, excuse me.
Move on to the new co-main event. And before we get there, let's just give a standing ovation to RDA Rafael dos Anjos for always being the BMF, a real BMF, and fighting everyone and anyone.
They haven't changed this.
Okay, so the UFC still has him fighting Fiziev.
It's right here. It's right here on this screen.
When you click,
when you detail into the bout, it still shows Rafael Fiziev. UFC.com, folks. Biggest promotion in the United States.
Well, I mean, they paid Adesanya.
Yeah, so they can't update the page fully. But so we'll leave it on here because the odds are there anyway. But yeah, no, and just to piggyback on what you said about RDA, Dana White's gone on record to say that Rafael dos Anjos is the guy he uses to gauge fighters. as far as how they do against him and how well they're going to do in the UFC overall when they face Rafa in this weight class or in the weight class they normally fight in. When they fight Dos Anjos, Dana White always says he's like, that's the guy that, if you survive Dos Anjos, you're probably going to have a good career in the UFC,
Yeah.
something along those lines. And I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically calling him a gatekeeper at this
Mhm.
point in Dos Anjos' career. He's probably what he is because he odds of him winning a championship are fairly slim again at this point. But if you beat him, it
Mm.
gives you that golden ticket usually
Yeah, so they're doing
to
it
the
at
next step.
catchweight, which is good too because it's only 5 days notice for Renato Marcone. I think he arrived in Brazil a little bit before from Brazil before a little in Vegas before we started recording. So
Yeah, and props to him as well for stepping up to take the
mhm.
fight. I was extremely concerned that we weren't going to get a replacement here, uh,
A lot
and
of
the
us
card
were.
the card needed it. So, and the Fiziev fight would have been fire, but
I actually had Fiziev picked to win in the initial booking, as hungry
yeah,
as Dos Anjos was to fight. But that's
I
another.
I I saw it the same way, and now
Yeah,
I've flipped. Now I think Dos Anjos is going to
yeah,
have. I think his hands might be. This is the first time he was really kind of training for a striker. It
hmm
seems like he's only fought wrestlers for the last half decade. And now, I wonder how crisp and clean his striking is going to be having gotten a full camp training for a striker. Obviously, now he's fighting the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu stud also, but somebody who also will stand and bang. So, um, I don't see RDA getting submitted. So I'm not real sure the path for Moicano to win this fight, other than just coming out and being a nonstop, you know, punching and kicking machine and picking up a decision win. But I
hmm
think Dos Anjos 5 round fight. Um, Hard to take a 5 round fight. Get out, on 5 days notice.
yeah,
Get off an airplane after 19 hours of travel from a
yeah,
foreign, another country, and then arrive in a foreign country
yeah.
and then go to war with a
And that's another thing too that both men deserve praise for. I mean, Dos Anjos insisted on it being 5 rounds, and Renato was just like, "Yeah, I'll do it. Bring me in." So I'm definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if this one or the Holland fight and Oliveira fight. I wouldn't be surprised if this winds up being some sort of fight of the night too.
yeah. I mean, I think I like the fight. There was the rumors of the Islam
Yeah,
Makhachev stepping in. But I actually like this fight as a
I do
pure
too.
fight fan more. I didn't want
hmm
to watch RDA get ragdolled, wrestled around the ring again for 5 rounds.
Yeah,
Uh,
because we might have that in the main event
yep.
with
So
Colby.
we jump into the quote unquote grudge match of grudge
Yeah,
matches uh, between
the
two
main
guys who
event.
I
Like,
fully expect to hug it out and
yeah.
like nothing was wrong after the fight ends. Uh, but Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal, fight would have been cooler maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago before a couple of the other L's on their record. But
Yeah, they both lost to the same guy. Their last
yeah,
fight.
Usman's basically
hmm
set these guys to a point where this is kind of a loser leaves town match at this
hmm
point. And not really leaves town, but leaves title contention probably for a long time.
hmm
Um, I not sure who you're gonna pick. I'm picking Covington. I think Covington takes him down. I think he mauls him.
Yeah.
I think Masvidal had his run. I think
hmm
Masvidal is one of the more exciting fighters to watch in the history of MMA. When it's a stand-up fight and he's fighting a Diaz or
hmm
something like that. But I just think that this is it's a bad matchup for him stylistically.
Yep.
Obviously, he can catch Covington, but Covington's proven to kind of have a pretty steel jaw.
hmm
Um,
Yeah.
I understand he was finished late against Usman, but
The
he
first
took
time. Yeah.
but he took massive shots that whole fight.
Before
Uh,
that. Before
and he
that
gave
happened.
massive
Yeah.
shots. So you got two guys who can hit pretty damn hard. I'd give the edge to Masvidal if you're talking about maybe a one punch
hmm
KO finish. But I think Covington's going to stay tight. He tends to fight really by the book as far as technically sound. He just kind of, against Usman, he just is losing to a more technically sound, better fighter. So I just think he kind of plays it safe here. I don't think he's going to get into a brawl with Masvidal, unless we're really talking about a rare, real grudge match in MMA here,
Mm-hmm.
and he just goes out there and just has fire in his eyes and kind of blacks out and turns it into a brawl. But I don't see that happening with him. I know he's got his act but as far as a fighter goes, I don't think there's many better than him, and I don't. I just see him taking this fight down. I see him mauling it. I honestly see him maybe even submitting Masvidal in like the third round.
I don't know about a submission, but I'm leaning more decision. Just because of I mean, again, you don't know, you never know how bad when a fighter gets knocked out. You never know how much of that is carried into their next fight, and he got knocked out bad by Usman. I know that was a while ago,
Mm-hmm.
but if there is a such thing as MMA math, which we know there isn't, but if we're using that as the equalizer, they both fought and lost to Usman. You have to look at who did better against Usman, and the last time, and Covington fought him twice, and the last time he at least went the distance. So, in that respect, and when that happened, even Dana White said if Kamaru Usman's not in the UFC, Colby Covington's probably the best welterweight in the division. And despite his shtick with the whole Trumpy stuff and all whatever, he's. I actually had this conversation at work today. Really good fighter, so it's hard not to lean towards Colby Covington. There's always a puncher's chance, right? But it's hard for me to see him not, like you said, grinding out a victory here.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I think decision's probably the right call, probably the betting side of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he might really like take Masvidal down, beat him up for a couple rounds, and
Mm-hmm.
just eventually get some kind of head and arm or something like that where he just kind of grabs something. Might not want to though. Again, this comes down to if this is we'll find out if this is a real grudge match, because
Mm-hmm.
it might be one where they just kind of decide to beat the hell out of each other, and maybe you pass on a submission to hit a dude a few extra times. But there's been few and far between. And I got to see how this unfolds, because
Yeah.
they were really good friends. It's hard for me to believe you got
Yeah.
two guys who are that close and all of a sudden they just massively hate each other without there being some
Yeah.
kind
And
of,
something,
you know,
even if you have a legit beef, something does most of the time, at least as long as we've been watching this sport, most of the time when you hash it out in the ultimate way that men hash things out, which is this way, fighting each other, and it goes to whatever happens. That's it. I mean, if we're going street rules, it's over. Beef settled. You whip my ass, I whip yours. We're good now. So that would actually be good for the sport, in my opinion. If that's no matter who wins, if when it ends, that's how it ends.
yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, short of it ending some kind of controversy and we get a rematch, if it turns out to be a good fight, then
Yeah.
I won't hate that either. But yeah, to keep the world right and try to do something good, it would be nice if they squashed whatever they got when the fight's decided. Prelims, early prelims for this event start at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Mm-hmm.
Fight Pass, ESPN Plus for the first 3-4 fights of the night. Then you get your normal 8 p.m. ESPN. No regular prelims for you this weekend, Ed, and then the normal 10 p.m. Eastern pay-per-view start time.
Yep. And I'll get
Uh,
to sit back and enjoy this just as a fight fan and not have to be up until 3 a.m. or whatever the fuck have been doing for the past year and a half. So looking forward to enjoying this event.
yeah, speaking about being a fight fan, I will be out attending this event.
Yes.
And but the
Many
main
free
event
maniac.
before the main event
Yeah.
is Friday night, the return of Tough Enough to Las Vegas.
That card actually looks really good.
I haven't even seen the full card. I've been searching for it, so I will have you send that to me right now. I know the main event is Maki Pitolo versus Fernando Gonzalez, who we've had on the show several times, came on to promote the
Yeah.
event.
I dropped the link in the, if you're watching this on YouTube, the link to that interview is in the description, and I'll be sure and add it to the Spotify, the audio versions everywhere you listen to the audio podcast too, because Gonzalez is an OG. Pitolo is also someone that is not someone you don't want to miss fight. That's going to be a fun fight.
Yeah, I saw the setup today. So it's at the Circa Casino, which is a brand new 21 and over only kind of luxury casino, I guess, in downtown
Hey.
Vegas. And it looks like it's like the Fight Warehouse is the location that it started at. I saw them starting to put stuff together. It looks like we could be in for a weird, kind of a cool possible atmosphere based off of what it looks like. The initial look was like, oh shit, is this Gannon versus Kimbo in a in a warehouse? So I'm curious to see how the setup is, if they try to make it kind of a an atmosphere, or if they just put a cage in there and set the lights up. But
Yeah.
it, I excited for it. That one, the prelims, the amateur card begins at 6 p.m. Pacific, so 9 Eastern, and then the main card for that's on the BN USA network. I'm not sure exactly how everybody can track that down, but then the main card starts at 8 p.m. West Pacific, so 11 Eastern is the main card, and that is on Fight Pass
Hmm.
on Friday night. Also, a side note, just because I've been to the last few events, Cage Warriors San Diego has their third San Diego event also on Friday. Obviously, I won't be able to attend that one as I'll be in Vegas, but that is also on Fight Pass on Friday night. So, I mean, lots of fights. Um, and you mentioned that full card. I look forward to seeing it because the rumors and stuff, and some of the stuff I've been seeing looks like it could be a pretty
Oh yeah, it's not on there
stacked
anymore.
event. Yeah, so maybe they posted and pulled it back.
Yeah.
I know they've been looking for a couple late replacements to kind
Yeah.
of get some guys going, but being in Vegas, being their first pro card, I expect there to be a couple more
Hmm.
notable names on it. So
Yeah.
that's Friday, UFC Saturday. I look forward to a live show back in Vegas,
Yeah. Vegas, baby.
and the mandates are dropped out there. So let's see what.
Dropping all over the place.
Yeah, I'm curious to see the feel again of getting back there, because
Maybe you'll get out there and the panties will drop when Matt Hawkins hits the Vegas Strip at the
sure
21
that'll
on
happen.
over casino.
Oh shit. Oh well. Well, anyways, I'll be hopefully posting some photos. Hopefully, I'm able to get reception in these in the Fight Warehouse, and I
Hmm.
can kind of give some updates on what's going on there, and I guess best of luck to the Menifee Maniac Fernando Gonzalez.
Yes,
As
sir.
he fights a tough dude in Mackie Patolo, and hopefully the winner of this fight gets for Mackie another shot in the UFC, and if it's Fernando, hopefully he gets to kind of fulfill his MMA journey and get a
Hmm.
chance to compete for the UFC. Really, the only organization
That he hasn't
of
fought
note
in.
that he hasn't fought in,
Yeah.
that's been around for the last 15 years. So
Yeah.
uh, excited to do it, and talk to you about it over the weekend and next week.
Yes, sir.
Until then, fans can check out the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Check us out at allaccessmma.com for our video podcast. Fans can follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. Have a great weekend. Happy anniversary, Ed. Keep plugging away at this, and
Yes, I will enjoy a nice, relaxing
yeah, and
weekend.
yeah, exactly. You kick back and enjoy it like the rest of us.
Yeah. Peace.
Good night.